Hi, Next Economy Now listeners. In celebration of our second cohort of Next Economy Living beginning this October, we're launching a special mini-series on the podcast to explore ways to build our individual and collective resilience strategies during these critical times. If you enjoy this episode and are excited about designing your life in alignment with your values in a supportive community environment, consider joining our fall cohort of Next Economy Living. In this 6-month learning journey, we'll learn how to deepen our security and resilience practices to thrive and flourish amidst ecological and economic challenges. Learn more and sign up for a free coffee chat with one of our facilitators at bit.ly/Next Economy Living.
Welcome to Next Economy Now. The goal of this podcast series is to highlight the leaders who are taking a regenerative, bioregional, equitable, democratic, racially just, and whole systems approach to creating the new economy.
I'm Erin Axelrod, a partner and worker owner at Lift Economy, and I'm joined today by Christine Platt. Christine is a multi-hyphenate, multi-genre author whose work centers the journey of personal liberation, inviting readers to examine, release, and reimagine the narratives that shape their lives. From adult fiction and lifestyle to children's literature and cultural commentary, Christine's expansive body of work defies genre limitations by centering an empowering through line, understanding and achieving personal liberation. A believer in the power of storytelling as a tool for social change, she holds a Bachelor of Arts in Africana Studies, Master of Arts in African American Studies, and a Juris Doctorate from Stetson University College of Law. Christine, welcome back to Next Economy Now.
Hello. It's so good to be back. So good to be back, man. Oh, so much has happened since our last conversation.
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited to get into it. And as we were talking just before, this is a part of our Next Economy Living mini series. And we just had, you're in the queue with Jewel Pearson as well.
Who I love. I mean, I think what's so special is like the intentional living community is probably a lot smaller than people think. And so many of us were able to find each other online, like really early on before a lot of the social media platforms, became saturated. This is like before TikTok. And I still remember like, and I hate to say like found, not like we discovered each other, you know what I mean? But like came across each other and we're both like, oh, another Black woman who's a minimalist, And then like I found out Jewel was like mother of the tiny house movement. And just like, she's amazing. She's amazing. So I know I'm in good company. I'm grateful.
And we are so excited to have you back. We had you on the podcast to talk about your book, Afro Minimalist.
Wild. Yeah.
And we're going to get into it because you've just launched this new book, Less is Liberation. But before we talk about that, I just want to share, I was fortunate to read The Truth About Owiti this year. And I'm not sure how many people know it's your book because it's a pen name.
It is a pen name. People have been finding it for the past 10 years, which of course gives me so much joy every time I get a little reminder that Owiti is still out here touching people's hearts and minds. One of my dear friends went to a library in Connecticut and asked the librarian, you must have, read millions of books. Like, what's your favorite novel? She was like, it's this little book you probably never heard of, but it's called The Truth About Owiti. He's like, what? She's like my sister, So it's wild to know that that book is a pre-Afro-minimalist, but here it is 10 years later, and there would be no Afro-minimalist without The Truth About a Wee Tea. Real quick story, because I do truly feel my liberation journey started with writing that book, even though I didn't know it at the time. And so there may even be people who are listening that, you know, like you feel like, man, I started doing this 5 years ago. And then you look up and you're like, actually, I've been doing this work for a while. And so sometimes we just don't know it, right? And we're only supposed to see what we're supposed to see at the time. But at the time that I wrote The Truth About a Wee Tea, I was working as a senior policy advisor at the U.S. Department of Energy. It's a wonderful job, but it was also not soul filling, right? Which I'll explain more when we talk about less is liberation. But I love the work, but I wasn't fulfilled by the work. And so when one of my friends mentioned, and it's probably like around, I don't know, September, October 2013, it's like, hey, this November, we should do National Novel Writing Month. And I'm like, that sounds so nerdy, like sign me up. I don't even know what it is, but let's do it. And it's basically where you commit to write like 50,000 words in a month. And so I decided to write about a theory that I had heard in graduate school, which is that the spirits of slaves are not at rest and that they're embodied in the winds of hurricanes. And that theory came about because a lot of hurricane winds start off the coast of West Africa, gain momentum as they cross the Atlantic, and hit mostly the southern slave-holding states. And so I'd heard that theory in grad school. Growing up in Florida, it always stuck with me. I'd lived through Hurricane Andrew. I think it's so, again, just divine timing that we're having this conversation right now, 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. This country has, and just around the world, has suffered a lot of devastation through hurricanes. And so I just decided that was going to be my National Novel Writing Month story. I'd never written a novel, and I had a blast, as you can tell. Every chapter is like written in a different voice. Anyway, I have no idea what I'm doing. So I get to my 50,000 words. National Novel Writing Month ends. And I just keep playing around with it. I'll edit it here and there. You know, some chapters are funny. Some chapters are dark, whatever. And one of my dear friends, Michelle Baker, her mom had passed. And we were driving down to North Carolina to just help her be good girlfriends, help her take care of her mom's place. And just to kind of like lighten the mood in the car, I read, I think it's chapter 4. It's the courtroom chapter. Do you remember that chapter? It's like one of the few that has some levity. And I'm like reading in character all these different voices, and they are like cracking up. I don't think any of us had laughed in weeks, months, right? And they're like, Christine, like you gotta publish this book. You gotta finish this book. I'm like, yeah, I will. December 2014 rolls around, and another friend says, I read something, they love it. They're like, you should like enter it into a contest or something. I'm like, okay, I will enter into this literary contest. And the problem is, Erin, your book had to either already been published, like in the year of 2014, or about to be published in 2015. It had to be published before this festival, which was in April. Do you know, I lied and I said my book was finished. I mean, it was almost finished. It's almost finished. Okay. And people can't see your face. I can see your face. You're like cracking up at how absurd that was. And it was. And I realized how absurd it was when I got the email back that was like, congratulations, you've been selected. We'll see you in April. And I was like, oh my God, I have to turn in this book. I do my best to finish editing. I'm on Twitter one day and I see, even if you feel like you know how to write, you should never edit your own book. I look and see who's commented. This wonderful woman named Emma, who said, I'm an editor. I'm like, hi, Emma, I need someone to edit my book. Isn't this like so random? Like the most random thing ever. She edits the book, rips it to shreds, really teaches me how to write as part of that process. And we publish it on May 15th, 2025. My friends read it. I'm like, really? You love it? They're like leaving reviews. You never believe it when it's just your friends and family, right? Because they're supposed to be kind. And strangers start reading it. Then I start hearing from university professors and teachers because it's teaching this part of history, right? Through these short stories that are captivating people's attention, but like also teaching history and reawaken my love for storytelling. And I decide I'm going to quit my good government job and become a novelist. I'm going to be a full-time writer. And I get home and I'm sitting there waiting, expecting the inspiration to come. And all I'm doing is looking at a house full of stuff. And I'm like, I got to get rid of some of this stuff. And now you know how the Afro minimalist was born. Isn't that there would be no Afro minimalist without the truth about Awiti. And that story it's just so powerful and I love it. And be recording the audiobook soon. Finally, I'm willing because I indie published it. I'm still not giving up the print rights, but I do want to do the audiobook. And just that whole journey, Erin, led me down this path to liberation, right? First with Afro minimalists, letting go of things that no longer served me. I'd never planned for that to be a book. My agent at the time, it's COVID. And she's like, oh, now would be a good time to write that Afro minimalist book. I'm like, what Afro minimalist book? I wrote that book, got the contract, wrote that book, like all within the span of a year. It's what's called a crash book. And as you know, it changed my life. That's when we first met. Yeah. And since then have just been on this journey, first of obviously letting go of things that no longer serve me, and then feeling how good it feels to live with intention and wondering like, how can I live like this in every area of my life? So I love telling people like minimalism is like the gateway to living with intent. It's like a little trick, right? You're like, I'm just going to declutter my house. Next thing you know. And so the new book, Less is Liberation, Finding Freedom from a Life of Overwhelm, is about letting go of the limiting beliefs and behaviors that no longer serve us. And never knew we'd be in this collective state of overwhelm that so many of us are in right now. But again, much like Awiti, like I didn't know Awiti was going to birth Afro minimalist. I had no idea that everything that I've gone through over the past several years would bring me to this place of feeling like it was time to write this book, right? And unlike Afro minimalist, which I wrote upon reflection of my minimalist journey, Less is Liberation, I wrote while going through the process of learning how to let go of my limiting beliefs and behaviors. And oh yeah, it was a journey.
Christine, I am indeed smiling from ear to ear and just sitting in such gratitude for your beautiful sharing of your journey.
Oh, thank you.
Oh,
thank you.
And the thoughts that you are putting out in the world are just what the world is needing right now. I mean, your whole career, you've been answering this call of what stories need to be told.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think I do want to be clear to listeners, like it wasn't just this beautiful kumbaya journey along the way, right? Like I had to learn a lot. I mean, I entered into publishing with The Truth About Awiti, which is like literary fiction. I didn't even try to get a publisher, right? Like, and I can't even imagine in 2015 that a publisher would have even published that. I mean, you've read it. Like it's really, there are points that it is dark. There are points that, I mean, I have cried writing some of those chapters, right? I mean, the courtroom chapter is like the only chapter that is like funny, right? And it was because, man, like I'm writing about this period from the 1400s to really the onset of Hurricane Katrina, right? Which is like wild that my journey has come full circle. The 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, right? And what I really wanted to do telling the stories through that novel was teach history, because everyone was saying, how did we get here? How did we get here? And historians know, like, if you know your history, you like truly understand the lasting implications of every decision that is made over time, right? And so getting people to understand we are living in the lasting implications of decisions of those who came before us, right? And I think there's power in that, and knowing that the decisions that we make hold that same power, and that the decisions we make today will affect other generations, right? Like it is like a ripple effect across the world. And so, coming into this work, just wanting to teach, just wanting to use storytelling, as I said, as a tool for social change, to educate, to inspire, right? I mean, I think entertainment is bound to be a part of it, but, really understanding the power of telling stories and our stories, whether they're fictional, whether they are personal. And finally, just this year, after turning in Less is Liberation, finding myself back working on a novel that, puts me right back into that same heart and headspace that I was in with Awiti. And I haven't felt that in years, right? And I didn't feel it in years because I would write whatever anyone suggested that I do, right? Like I'm struggling to write my second novel. I'm feeling like a one-hit wonder with The Truth About Awiti. And my agent says, maybe you should try writing for kids. And I'm, all right, sure, I'll try it, and then next thing you look up, I have like 16 books for kids. Again, Afro minimalist. Hey, like it's the pandemic. People are home with their stuff. Maybe you should write that book, right? Like there's something about choosing to be on the journey that you're on. It's another thing when things are suggested to you. And I think it's hard. And I think why a lot of people are Less is Liberation is going to resonate with them is that it is hard to let go of these limiting beliefs and behaviors when they have served us well, right? When they have helped us be successful, right? Like people pleasing, going with the flow, being accommodating, being helpful. I have other writer friends that I don't care what their agent, friends, their grandmother could say, I know you want to write fiction, and they're like, no, there is no but. This is all I'm doing. Right. And so there is a part of you that has to grieve, who you were that allowed other people to make decisions for you, whether they resulted in you being successful or not. And I think all of that loss, that grief, that letting go, right? It's like, it is so healing. I don't think I could have ever written the book that I'm writing right now had I not been through that 10-year journey. I don't think I could have ever written Less is Liberation until I felt myself feeling so out of control of my life, right? It doesn't matter how successful it looks online. It doesn't matter. I did not feel that I was in control, right? It was like, I started Afro Minimalist. I just wanted to show people the inside of my house and like, here's how a Black minimalist lives, right? Next thing you know, I have all these followers. I have all this stuff going on. And then I write this book. It comes out in the middle of the pandemic. Everyone is home. Everyone is online. When I go back and look at my calendar from 2020, 2021, and 2022, I cannot imagine living like that today. It would literally be I would be hopping off one Zoom to a next, hopping off one Zoom, going to the next, hopping off one Zoom. Everything was online. And Afro minimalist, and I'm always going to be the Afro minimalist, right? But that became all I was known as, right? I worked really hard, as you heard in my bio. You listed a lot of things that I'm really proud of. And it got to a point people didn't even know. All they knew was Afro minimalist. And I'd spoken to a few other, and I'm using air quotes, listeners, you can't see, but it's like the bunny ears influencers at that time who just happened to be online talking about whatever they were talking about in 2020. And that became their lives. And they felt so restricted, so beholden. I remember one girl, she was talking about her curly hair. She had a whole life aside from her curly hair, obviously. And that's all people wanted, demanded, expected of her, right? In that moment. And, I think other people would say like, oh my goodness, but you had so many followers. You had a blue check. That's when you couldn't buy a blue check, and it's like, man, but you have it all. And I'm like, but I have other stories that I want to tell. I have other things that I want to do. Like for other people, Afro minimalist was everything. For me, it was another book that I wrote. You know what I mean? And it was very, very scary taking control of my life and my name and my voice and my work, right? I didn't even know to call it liberation then. You know what I mean? But that's what it was, right? It's me saying to my team, this new team that I had to get because my life is going crazy. I'm, doing sizzle reels for television shows. And I mean, like it was wild overnight. And I'm like, this is not the career that I envisioned for myself. And I'm like, I don't care if I have to start over with 0 followers. That's how bad it got, Erin. It was so it was all consuming. And I said, I don't care if I have to start over with 0 followers. We have to change my handle. And that's when my handle changed from Afro Minimalist to I am Christine Platt. And that was probably my first big act of liberation career-wise that I chose for myself. You know what I mean? Like I made that decision. Mm-hmm. It was frightening. And people don't talk about how liberation is frightening, right? They don't talk about how hard it is to make a decision that is going to literally impact and change your entire life. It's going to change people's opinions of you. It's going to change this. It's going to change that. And saying it doesn't matter because I cannot make another reel about the inside of my 630 square foot condo, Erin, that the entire world has seen everything, every angle, every corner, except for the inside of my toilet. I can't do it. I can't do it anymore. Like until you're at a place, right? And the goal is like, I don't want to have to get to that place, right? To liberate myself. That first time I feel like, this doesn't align with the life that I'm trying to live. This doesn't feel good anymore. This isn't fun anymore. This isn't what I thought it was going to be. Instead of wondering and worrying about other people's opinions of me, saying, you know what? I know what I need to do for myself. I was Afro minimalist years old when I was able to make that decision for myself. And, I have to grieve those years before, right? But there's power in grief. And so I'm hoping that is what Less is Liberation will show people. A lot of the overwhelm that we experience in our lives is self-induced. It is under our control, and within our control. We usually have to just make some really tough decisions to liberate ourselves from it.
What I'm hearing so much around what you're sharing is around integrity and authenticity. And to bring in something we talk about in Next Economy Living is that corporate controlled media has no interest in really amplifying those nuanced stories.
No.
And you saw that firsthand. No. It's like being pigeonholed into these kind of clickbait, synthesized, reduced down versions of ourselves because of the money-making machine.
Yeah. And it starts so gradually, right? I mean, I think my story is one of many where sometimes you walk right into it, not even knowing, right? Like sometimes it's not even someone made the decision for you. Like you willingly walked through that door and then you got on the other side and was like, oh, this is not what I thought. And so, yeah, like it's, when I talk about, because I feel like, especially as a Black woman, I grew up really hearing talks. The only kind of conversations that were centered around liberation were centered on collective liberation. Like I never even thought about personal freedom as a thing, right? I mean, depending on your age, depending on where you grew up, depending on your birth order, right? For certain people, things are already decided for us, right? And less is liberation. Just to sort of like ease people into the understanding of limiting beliefs and how they come about, I get people to think about it. Don't start with like your family and your parents and you know what I mean? Next thing you know, you're like, and you told me, and you just haven't like really sat with how easily our limiting beliefs form. And one way to like ease people into it is I like to get them to think about generational limiting beliefs, right? This is like, what was the state of society and what was the thing when you were born? No one did anything to you. You were just born. You're born in the 70s. You are likely hyper independent. You know what I mean? And you likely struggle with asking for help. We were latchkey kids, right? Like when kids nowadays are like, when our parents used to joke and say like, I used to walk 10 miles to school, right? Like when we tell newer generations that like, yeah, I was 5, I was 6, and I like had a key around my neck and then I came home and like, they're like, you were 6 walking, you had a key, like they just cannot understand. Right. But as part of the conditioning of our times, that's how limiting beliefs form, right? Like if you're 5 or 6 years old with a key around your neck, or you're the 8-year-old eldest sibling and you have to get all your siblings in the house, you got to defrost the chicken, you got to cook the chicken before your parents get home, you got to bathe you know what I mean? Like you have some sort of limiting belief that you should be able to do it all because you did do it all, right? And because that's just what was normal and expected at the time, right? Folks that grew up believing that there was only one pathway to success, right? You had to get married. You had to have, 2 kids, bonus if you have cat and a dog, you know what I mean? And like the house with the white picket fence. And so many people thought that was the version of success. And then they got it and they were like, this is it. There's nothing more, right? But that's what the expectation was. And it's reinforced not just in our homes, but by society, right? It's like, they grew up watching Leave It to Beaver. they grew up seeing Good Housekeeping magazine. It's like and I love Good Housekeeping, by the way, no shade, Good Housekeeping, love you. But, at the time, like that's the messaging, right? And so that's how limiting beliefs are formed. And I think I took such a passionate approach to it because I never saw what I now know were limiting beliefs and behaviors as things that were limiting. I had all sorts of other names for it, right? I'm resilient. I'm nice. Like we have all these other adjectives that were either told to us and forced upon us. And so for me, I really needed not just this like textbook definition of what a limiting belief was. I was like, I need to know everything about it. And I think the best way to describe it, at least for me, and what helped me sort of just like get a better grasp of who I was and what I was thinking and why, was this idea that there are messages all around us all the time, which means there are messengers all around us all the time. And a limiting belief is just when you get the wrong message from a messenger. It's just you got the wrong message from whoever that messenger was. And a messenger is anyone or anything that we respect, admire, want to impress, want to make proud. So that's like our parents, our teachers, right? If you grew up in a very religious home, right? It's the church. Like it's all these messages all around us. And one wrong message gets embedded. And that becomes a limiting belief that can shape your life, right? And once you understand the power of that, and what I like to say is change that limiting belief to a liberating belief, you get to take your power back.
Whew. Well, I cannot wait for this book. I'm so excited. And the audiobook of Awiti as well. And what's coming up for me right now is just how grateful I am that you, with all your lived experiences as a historian, as all of your complexities, writing this book, because I think what many of our listeners are really fatigued by is the plethora of kind of self-help books written by white guys with no grounding in the systemic political contexts that really affect agency and choice in this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, and I love that you say that. So thank you so much. Cause look, the bookstores are going to label it however they want to label it, right? I am not talking about self-help. This is like personal transformation, right? Like this idea, we are always able to help ourselves. And I understand that self-help is a very popular genre and that there are a lot of authors and even like medical doctors. One of the books that was so powerful to me that I left her a footnote, man. In the book of like Necessary Losses by Dr. Judith Voist, is I believe how you pronounce her name. Like there are books that are written to help us, right? And then there are books that are written by people claiming they can help us. And we get so disappointed when we find out some backstory or whatever, right? And it's just like the idea that we can help ourselves should always be within us. And if we don't feel like we can help ourselves, if we don't feel like we have agency, there's a limiting belief that's sitting somewhere in there, right? And so that's what I started to do, is start to like do this digging. And I think most people are like me, right? Like, I have a background and I'm not Dr. Judith Voist. That book, like my brain was like, oh, I wish I had this book 20 years. It's been around forever. Michael Singler, The Untethered Soul. Like, it's like, there are some of these books that have been changing lives for decades, right? those books, heart, soul, gold, right? Like they are going to give you the language. They are going to explain the physiology. Like, I mean, I would not have been able to write Less is Liberation without those books. But I also think there's something really powerful about saying like, I am just a regular person who is sitting here like other regular people that are like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, but I know this is not how I'm about to be living the rest of my life, right? And saying, I am going to really do some inner work. I'm going to do some exploratory work, and I'm going to work through this in real time. I mean, even the word overwhelm for me, it had lost its meaning. Like, I don't even know if I ever even really knew what it meant. You know what I mean? Before this book. And getting to a place where it's a lot of self-inquiry, right? And it's a lot of self-assessment. And I think that's what's left out of self-help a lot, right? Like you want to sugarcoat it, but it's like, honestly, we all have the ability to help ourselves. What we really need to do is self-assess. And that's what doesn't feel good. It just does not feel good at times. And so really self-assessing, really questioning, like some of the words that I would use regularly. Do I even know what they mean? Right? Overwhelm had lost its meaning. Overwhelm should be like a sign and symptom that you need to go, you are unwell. You know what I mean? Something is wrong physically, emotionally, mentally, socially, spiritually. One of those wells is empty, right? Or near being depleted. But instead, it's become a word that we just casually say. Like 50, 60, 70 years ago, if you told your doctor you felt overwhelmed, they're like, oh, wait. You know what I mean? Like, let's talk about what's going on in your life. Let's have you take some time off from work, right? But now we're just like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. What are you having for breakfast? So when these words lose their meaning, we lose the meaning to what they are supposed to signal for us, right? And so me realizing that overwhelm is like a biological trigger, that I am either at capacity or near capacity, that was a game changer for me. Another word that I really struggled with, Erin, and I think the Next Economy community will understand when I say this, is the word selfish. I was raised to believe familially, like in my family, societally, that was the last thing I wanted to be. That was the last thing I ever needed to be called. Selfish is awful. Selfish people are awful. You know what I mean? Like that had been ingrained in me, and understanding that to really tap into my own agency and really liberate myself and free myself from anything that no longer serves me, I have to tap into selfishness. I was in struggle mode. Do you hear me? And so I look up the definition of selfish, and because I'm on this journey. And of course, like the first definition is just like, someone who is, self-absorbed or whatever it said. And then there was a second definition that changed my life. And I want to share this. Being chiefly concerned with one's own personal profit or pleasure. Chiefly concerned with one's own personal profit or pleasure. Not only concerned, right? Which is what I would say the general definition of selfish would imply, right? I'm only concerned with myself. It's being chiefly concerned with yourself, your work, your profit, your pleasure first. And I remember that just being like a light bulb moment for me, because I was always chiefly concerned with somebody else first, right? To the point where someone didn't even, oftentimes we're inserting ourselves, right? And the example I like to use is if someone needed a stamp, you and I are in the line getting coffee, and they're like, man, I really wish I had a stamp. They didn't say, hello, stranger, do you have a stamp? They're literally just making a statement. When you are not chiefly concerned with yourself, here you are, right? Oh, you know what? I have a stamp, right? Which is fine. In that moment, you're being kind. Okay. Next, oh my goodness, you have a stamp? That's so, oh yeah, sure, you can have it. You're still being kind. You see them put the stamp on the envelope. Oh, are you going to the post office? I'm going by there. I'll take that for you, right? Like there's layers to it. And I realized a lot of the overwhelm in my life was me inserting myself in things, in people's troubles, issues, needing a stamp, right? That I end up taking on, right? Whereas when I am chiefly concerned with myself, I don't do that. I might give you the stamp. That's being kind, right? I did a post about the difference between being nice and kind. Those are also two definitions that like rock my world. But I use that definition of selfishness to sort of really help me unlearn everything that I've been taught about it, intentionally or unintentionally, right? I think that's what's so powerful about understanding a limiting belief, and why I think it's so important to start with generational beliefs rather than to start pointing fingers, is because oftentimes when people give us the wrong message, they think they're helping. They think they're being supportive. They think they're doing the right thing, right? They think this is what I was taught and it worked for me. They have no idea that it is going to become a limiting belief that shapes our behaviors and beliefs about ourselves for the rest of our life, right? And so there has to be like this certain element of grace there, and how the limiting belief was formed and who formed it and all that. Like you learn to just kind of let that go and just be like, well, what can I do to sort of change that, right? And so for me, the limiting belief I had around what it meant to be selfish became a liberating belief when I was able to say, it doesn't mean that I don't have to be concerned about other people. There are times when I have the bandwidth to give and help and share and do, right? But understanding that that we have a capacity, I have to be chiefly concerned with myself first. And I would literally find myself, because it's one of those things, it's like once you see it, you can't unsee it. And I would literally go down and I would be like, be chiefly concerned with yourself. This has nothing to do with you. Like it became this way, like a mantra. Nope. Because that was my default, right? And so when our limiting beliefs become our default, like that's when they shape our lives, and we really have to do some work to start freeing ourselves from them. But yeah, that one was really powerful. And, I know that so many of us that our work is a big part of who we are. It's a big part of our lives. And so writing this book for me, it was for me and for others, right? Because I know so many people like me, and I know there are so many folks in your community who are like me. And it took me getting high blood pressure from being stressed out, and not like small, little high blood pressure, right? It's like I go in for my annual exam and they take my blood pressure and they're like, can you sit still? We need to take that again. I'm like, I am sitting still. I feel fine. Erin. Like, I feel fine. They take it again, run out the room, go to get my practice's cardiac specialist. I don't even know we had a cardiac specialist. You know, and I'm just like, what is going on? And they're like, we're so sorry, but like, don't mean to scare you, but like, your blood pressure is so high. You are like high stage 2 hypertension, borderline stage 3. And we're trying to figure out, do we send you to the ER? Do we give you medication? I am sitting there like, I feel fine. They're like, did you drive yourself to this appointment? Yes, I feel fine. I took a meeting in the car. Like, I feel fine. And I felt fine, Erin, because overwhelm had become my baseline. That's what happens, right? So it's like all of this builds. And in Less's Liberation, I share how that experience changed my life. And this all happened last year, by the way. And I was just in shock, and the doctors are in shock, and I don't look like, and I'm using air quotes there as well, right? Because we tell ourselves all sorts of things, right? To keep pushing through, to keep getting through. And now me, a little over a year later, thinking about how I felt that day as I sat in that doctor's office, I would drive myself to the ER today. But that was my baseline. It was normal for me. It was, I'm like, oh, it's perimenopause. That's why my vision is what everything was perimenopause. For me, we love self-diagnosing and, it was a real wake-up call for me. And I went to see an integrative health doctor, which was wonderful. If anyone is on the fence about that or curious about that, highly recommend they work with your primary to really bring about some lifestyle changes and holistic changes to, help you work through whatever challenges that you're having. And so, and I talk about Dr. G in the book. And that first session, I was just like, my mouth is just like open. I'd never been in a session like that before. She's getting my history and all this and that. We get to the end of that session and she's like, yeah, you're unwell. And I'm like, I'm sorry, excuse me? You know what I mean? Like, I know I have high blood pressure, but unwell, that's a strong diagnosis, right? She's like, a lot of people are unwell. And she said, have you ever heard of the 5 foundations of wellness? And I said, no. And she said, it's used in holistic medicine, traditional medicine. It's just a way to like assess a patient. And she said, we look at your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, your social health, and your spiritual health, which is less about religion and more about purpose and the work that you're doing. And she said, yeah, if any one of those areas of your health is off, we deem a patient unwell. I am sitting there like, what? And I'm like, okay, so first of all, I agree, I'm unwell. Secondly, you're trying to tell me all these unwell people? And she's like, yes. She said, the thing is though, our bodies are always, always, always trying to be well. So you will get well, right? But you have to learn how to listen to your body. So all of this took me on this journey of writing Less's Liberation, learning how to free myself from the limiting beliefs that would impact my physical health, right? Like, I can't sleep. I have too much to do. Oh, I can't eat. Just not enough time. What? You know what I mean? Like, what? Right? And I started to think of them as my personal wells, which is how I share them in the book, because it was just an easy way for me to imagine and sort of visualize when my wells were full, when my wells were empty, what was depleting my personal wells, right? And it became this way to, again, self-assess. And I think most of us, either don't have a self-assessment tool. You know, I like to say so many of us are even like first generation of being able to even think about our wellness, right? And think about the work that we're going to choose and things like that. So it's never been modeled for us. And so it became just a really helpful way for me to find freedom in every area of my life. I'm very happy right now.
I am so riveted, and I love that's such a creative double entendre, the personal wells. And what I want to say as well in response to hearing these gems of wisdom is that when you were talking about this notion of reclaiming selfishness, I thought about my business partner, Phoenix Soleil, who teaches nonviolent communication. She's a certified nonviolent communication trainer. And at Lift Economy, we deeply believe that a pathway to societal change is actually bringing back the negotiation of needs to the interpersonal and personal level. And without that level of selfishness or self-awareness, we can't be in important conversations about what I have to bring to the table, what you have to bring to the table. So I'm so grateful.
Thank you
for all that you've shared.
I'm grateful for the work that you do. I mean, I think it's so powerful and necessary for us to have these conversations, for us to, you know, not only self-assess ourselves, but like also like ask our friends. I mean, like I talk about in the book, like sometimes it really is hard to pinpoint the limiting belief, right? I never saw myself as a people pleaser. Like in my mind, people pleasers were weak. They didn't know how to say no. Like, no, ma'am, that is not me, right? And when I dig and realize like, oh, a lot of what I do is rooted in people pleasing and wanting to make people happy and wanting people to like me and not wanting to ruffle feathers. And, you know, and so much of this stuff, just like with Afro Minimalist and letting go of our things, it stems from childhood, right? There is already so much going on in our family home. I have to be a good girl. I don't want to make any trouble. I got to make everybody happy, which is like a completely unsustainable way to live life, right? But that is where that limiting belief became rooted. And I took it into every area of my life. And so here is me thinking that I made an epiphany, and I go to one of my good writer friends and I'm like, you are not going to believe this, but like, I realized that I'm a people pleaser. And they're like, you are. Like, it's so wild to watch sometimes. And I'm like, why did you tell me? They're like, I mean, you just seem to love helping people, but it's crazy to watch. You should just see yourself. And I'm just like, so sometimes when the people who are closest to us, our business partners, our friends, our siblings, sometimes it's even good to do this work with them, because it is hard to see some of those things that are so deeply rooted within ourselves, especially when they have led to what by societal standards or even our own standards equates to a successful life, right? And it's like, man, the shedding of this identity, that's what's hard. That's what's scary. That's where the personal liberation struggle is because who am I? Who is Christine if everyone doesn't come for her to help? Who is Christine if I say no and that makes people think I don't like them or that I'm selfish, right? It's like this, man, it's such beautiful work. It is not easy at times. I do think doing it with friends, you know, very trusted people, or maybe even your partner, a loved one, it helps. It's a lot of tears. It's a lot of tough realizations, but man, the liberation that is on the other side. And I keep really trying to reinforce the underlying, that through line of wellness, right? And like, we can talk about wanting collective liberation as much as we want until we ourselves are liberated, until we ourselves are well. There's not going to be collective liberation, right? We need the collective to be well, right? And to not keep continuing on with some of these limiting behaviors and beliefs and sharing these wrong messages that just continue to keep using that metaphor to poison the well, right? So it's me stopping with telling my daughter, you have to be a good girl. Stopping that right there. And that's the power. You know what I mean? Like, that's the power that we have with taking agency over ourselves, with really unlearning a lot of things that we've been taught or shown, again, intentionally or unintentionally, allowing ourselves to grieve, experience that loss, forgiveness, showing ourselves compassion, right? Like, all of these words, it was like self, 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 self. And then the only word that had that I thought had a negative connotation was selfishness, right? And it's like, but if I say self-care, then it doesn't sound so selfish. Or if I say self-compassion, it doesn't sound like selfish, right? And so it's like a lot of reframing. And again, the overwhelm that I felt sitting in that doctor's office that day, completely unaware, because that was my baseline, could have literally killed me. Like, it is really a matter of life and death, taking agency and finding ways to liberate yourself from anything and anyone that is keeping you from being well and living the life that you want and deserve. It is truly as simple as that, right? But it is work. Oftentimes, again, we don't have the tools, we don't have the language, the ability to be able to self-assess in real time, to look at my calendar and say, ooh, I don't know if I can talk to Erin today. I got a lot going on. You know what I mean? My mental well is already at capacity. I got this meeting before here, right? To be able to self-assess in real time and then be honest and say, I can't record today. Can we pick another day? Right? I think oftentimes, again, there's so many limiting beliefs that have been forced upon us. And I think one that if I can leave any nugget with your community, it's this idea that no is somehow a dead end, right? This idea that if we say no, that if we're honest about our capacity, our ability, our willingness, whatever it is at the moment, that the opportunity is not going to come around again, right? And I would say those two, selfish and really understanding no is a superpower, and the power to pause is a superpower. To just I don't need to say yes right away. Let me check my wells. Right? And let me just see, that's agency. I don't have to tell you yes right away. I guess, let me think about it. Hold on. Yeah, no, it's not going to work. Or yeah, you know what? I can do it. Right? Like, you're the only conversation that I have today. And in 2020, 2021, and 2022, I would have had to rush off our conversation. We wouldn't have had a pre-talk and catch up and all that kind of stuff, right? And it's like, that's where that overwhelm, that's when I say, we have control. And I think we also can recognize when other people are at capacity. And, it really helps you just start to see it very differently, right? If I ask someone hey, you want to go? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, you know what? let's pick another day. Girl, it's clear that day doesn't work for you. You know what I mean? Like, we also have it within our control to not add overwhelm to other people's lives, right? It's like the same thing I talked about in Afro Minimalists. It's like, let me get people disappearing gifts. I don't need to add to their clutter. Right? It's like, you know what? You could get another coffee mug, or I could get you some cookies. You know what I mean? I could get you some soap or whatever, right? It's that being intentional and being mindful and very, very caring. And I think that is community care. Community care is what we all need and what is going to save us. And sometimes people can't see it for themselves. And if we see it, I feel like it's our responsibility. Everyone is dealing with something right now. Everyone is just like, whew, it's a lot going on, right? How can I offer community care if we're in no other way than just being intentional about how I use someone else's time, how I use their energy, right? Like, we have so much agency. We give our power away so easily. And I really hope that this book encourages people to take their power back. I mean, I think if there was ever a time, Erin, the time is now for us to do it. And yeah, man, I'm really, really at a good place in my life and really excited, and really hope this book does what I believe that it can do, which is change lives.
Well, may it be so. And I was thinking a very similar thing. May this book lead to changing lives, which changes economies.
Yes.
You know, are there any other thoughts as we bring our conversation to close, which I could talk for hours about this stuff.
But I gotta write my novel. I would love an opportunity. I mean, I love the Next Economy community, and, should the opportunity present itself over the next few months, would love for us to be in conversation again, or like have some sort of meet, I don't know, whatever. But I just know, like, the work that you all do is so powerful because it does shape and change lives, which change economies, which change history, right? To like go back to what we were talking about in the beginning. And so I just adore you. I adore this community, and I'm just so thankful to be back in conversation with you. This was lovely, lovely way to take a little break from my novel writing.
Oh, well, I'm giving thanks to all the forces and ancestors that made it possible that today worked.
I know.
That there was enough spaciousness in the schedule.
Divine timing.
And yeah, in terms of our listeners, I hope they flock to the truth about Awiti and Less is Liberation, and support and share your work. And these messages are so powerful, especially right now. It's really revolutionary. And I thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, just always, always wonderful talking with you. Take care.
You too. Be well.
Hey, Next Economy Now listeners. If you enjoyed this conversation and are looking to dive even deeper into the B Corp movement, you'll love our new podcast, Beyond the B, hosted by Lyft Economy's Amy Allison and me, Ryan Honeyman. Beyond the B is your insider's guide to the B Corp movement. You'll learn about the new B Corp standards shaping our community, how the B Corp movement is navigating the various tensions and challenges of growth, and how businesses like Patagonia are putting their commitments to people and planet in practice. Check out our latest episodes and free resources at lifteconomy.com/beyond. You can also subscribe to Beyond the B on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks again for listening.
Deepest takeaway has just been this much more felt sense of possibility and clarity. We deserve this better world, and we're living it now. And when we work together, we have so much power, and there's just so much capacity for really beautiful transformation in like the home, in the workplace, in community spaces, in learning spaces. So I'm really, really glad that I chose to sign up.
You just heard from Emily, a graduate of the Next Economy MBA. If you're interested in creating an organization or vocation that aligns with a world that works for all life, we'd love to have you join our fall cohort beginning September 30th. Our 9-month program is designed to provide an accessible introduction to business and organizational fundamentals from a just and regenerative perspective, based on our work with over 300 social enterprises and 700 alumni who are transforming communities around the world. Learn more and sign up for a free intro session at lifteconomy.com/MBA. Plus, save 20% on tuition through August 11th during our early bird sale. Thanks for listening, and now onto the show.